Hello. I'm standing right here in front of my 1984 Honda ATC 200. I bought this about a week ago, and when I picked her up, she was sitting, hadn't ran in a long time, said the carburetor was leaking out of the bottom, and just it was basically used and abused. And I'm trying to get her back in working order so that this can just be a working machine again. We're not looking for a showpiece, just everything working, everything functioning as it should, and a good sound machine. Anyways, we got the carb off. Found out there was a couple of the bottom screw that drains the float bowl was missing. That was obviously right away. And then a couple other things that weren't right. So we got those pieces, got it put together. Actually, first we just kind of blocked it off with a screw and blocked the drain hole on the bottom with a piece of plastic pipe so that I could test it. We did get it running because I didn't want to spend any money on this machine until I knew what was going on and what I had. Was it knocking, tapping, all of that stuff. So, but we did get it running. Ran pretty good. Motor sounds good. So we tested the gears. Now this model, this ATC 200, does have forward, reverse, and high and low gear. And it does have electric start. It has a headlight and a tail light. So all really nice options for a three-wheeler. The biggest problem I've had so far was the rear axle on the brake side, which, as you can see, as you're sitting on the machine, it'd be the right-hand side. That rear axle, the bearing, was just completely gone. We were on the races, just riding on those and the dust seal. So obviously inside of here, out of this here comes the axle, and then you have a brake drum right here, so that's about even right there. And then you have this collar on the axle after that, and this collar was just basically stuck like crazy right on that axle. I'm assuming because the O-ring, there's supposed to be an O-ring in here. I'm assuming that O-ring was gone and water just kept flooding in there. And obviously with the bearing and the dust seal shot, that allowed water to be introduced into there. And so she was welded on there pretty good. It took several 2x4s. I broke just a ton of 2x4s trying to get this thing off. I mean, here's a box of some of the shards. Anyhow, finally got it moving after some heat. I had to heat this collar, just keep heating it and heating it. I didn't get crazy, but just heated it up, tapped on it a little, kept with the PB weld. It took me a bit of time. I worked on it one day for about an hour, and then just, really lubed it up really good with the PB, and then I came back the next day and finally got it after about an hour and a half, I would say. Finally had it all out and disassembled. So it looks like the other side's good. I am just replacing the dust seal. I ordered that off of eBay along with the parts for the brake side. I got the brake pads for the front and the rear off eBay. They came in a kit. I got the bearing that goes on this side and the dust seal. That comes in a kit. There's a place on eBay that sells those. So if you're looking for that stuff, maybe hit me up in the comments and I'll mention their name there. But anyways, it's a nice little unit. Obviously it needs some work. I don't know if you can see that too. Someone had hit something or rolled this thing and had the rear brake pedal tore right off. So I had to find me another one, just a used one on eBay. I'm going to have to weld that stud back on there. And yeah, then get this back going. Like I said, this isn't going to be a showpiece or anything. I want to just get this thing working and usable. I'm missing the rear brake handle and mount for it. I have the front brake one, but she has no brakes at all. So that was one of the reasons I was completely fine tearing this thing down, because if you can't stop, even that, I'm crazy, but not that nuts. But anyways, I'm going to go through, do a complete oil change. We're going to pop this cover off so that we can clean out that whole oil area right here. I guess that's really something you should do. It will involve a gasket though. So once I get this apart, we'll see if I've got to replace that gasket with either I can make one, or if someone carries it, obviously I'd just as soon use the OEM, or one that fits on there, as long as it's not too expensive. Otherwise, I feel real comfortable making my own gaskets. I've got some ventilation hoses. I hope you can, you know what, we'll shed some light on this subject. The ventilation hoses for the engine, so that we don't get water in there. We're just going to have to go through, make sure everything is like that, is ship shape. We don't want water getting into this machine. I'm not going to go water, mud bogging too much or anything with this, but anytime water can get introduced to an area, boy, that really shortens the life, and normally you don't catch it until it's too late. But anyways, I've got the tank. I kind of want to sand it down and maybe repaint it eventually. That's not on my high to-do list. Like I said, I just want to get this thing running. The front forks, the shock absorbers, all seized up. The boots are bad, so I'm going to have to do that. That I'll be doing as soon as I get this rear end back together. The high and the low and reverse, all the gearing, everything works great. I've got some plastic welding I'm going to need to do, as you can tell by this piece here. I've got that piece busted off. I got a couple other small cracks that we're going to do some welds on. I want to put an LED light in the front bulb. The light's not working currently, so hopefully it's nothing major. We don't have a wiring problem or anything, but I have juice, so this thing will kick over. So I mean, we're in good shape. Obviously, I've got the plug out because, man, I wish I hadn't turned that over. I had it on top dead center. Forgot about that. That was a pain in the butt finding that the T on there. Ended up having to do it by just putting something down the spark plug hole. Just be careful when you do that. Make sure it's something plastic but big enough around that it doesn't get stuck in there, and really guide it and go nice and slow by pulling that recoil rope. Just nice and slow when you find that. And then top dead center, once I got there, I could see the T in that timing mark hole. And just for reference, sorry about this, that hole is here. You got to pull this cap, and then there's an arrow pointing, and then the T is on a wheel that spins around in there. So, but anyways, that's how you find that. That's how you have to check your valve clearance on the exhaust and the intake side. So I'm going to be checking those, obviously, making sure that's all set, resetting my my clutch, make sure, or I'm sorry, that's not the clutch, the cam chain, making sure that's not slapping it all. I didn't notice any noise, but you know what? Best to just check it, make sure everything's all good. And just going to recheck the clutch too, make sure that's the way it should be. And just change all my fluids, get everything back in working order, and just ride this thing. But any questions or anything like that, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I will check this periodically, so feel free to ask any questions and I'll answer them if I can. I'm not an expert, but I have played with a lot of this stuff for over the years, so I feel comfortable doing this kind of work. So anyways, hope you have a great day, and you take care. Later.